I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is Jay Martin, president of Cambridge House International. Cambridge House will be producing the 2016 Vancouver Resource Investment Conference with Katusa Research later this month. Thank you for joining me, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to start off by talking about 2015. The year just ended, and I think it's fair to say that it was tough for the mining industry. Why should investors continue to come to and be interested in VRIC and other conferences like that?
So I think I've been asked this question every show for the last 3 years. I can't wait till the first half of it changes. But looking at this show in January, we've got about 150 companies coming to the conference. In 2011, 2012, we had about 600. And in 2018, 2019, we'll probably have 600 again. So what's special about this 150? And moving into that next bull market, how's an investor to tell which companies are going to be hitting those high water marks? And my answer is simple. If you want to know who are going to be the giants of the next bull market, look at who can still do business in this market. Companies with management teams that are still able to raise money, move projects forward, and market their products, their business, those are the guys you want to watch. They're going to be the rock stars. We've got 150 of them at this show, and that's why you should be there. We're all going to be sitting at a bar in 3-4 years. And somebody's going to be saying, oh, I wish I got into mining in 2016. I want you to have a smirk on your face when they say that because you did it.
Okay. So your partnership with Katusa Research this year is new. Is that going to bring any changes to the conference? And can you talk about how it developed?
Yeah, certainly. So Cambridge House is only as good as the content that we bring to the show. And we've got a pretty good beat on what's happening in the mining space. We're usually quite aware of who's doing what and what we should be focusing on. But we have a unique perspective. We're a trade show business. Marin, on the other hand, is actively building and investing in many, many, many mining companies, and he brings that perspective. So what better guy when we're looking at our content strategy? Who should we give the nod to? New speakers that we should bring up, new companies that we should be approaching, or commodities that we should be showcasing. Marin's still one of the young guys in the business, but he's incredibly experienced, incredibly connected, and incredibly successful. So I can say with confidence that Cambridge House has always been very patient and only ever aligned with the very best people in the business. And I can back that up tenfold. When it comes to natural resources, that's Marin Katusa.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about the exhibitors? I think you said there's 150. I was wondering about the breakdown in terms of commodities. Are you seeing a concentration in any specific areas?
Yeah, we've got about 150 companies on the floor, and it's a variety. We've got our gold and silver guys, our precious metals groups, decent components of energy companies, both oil and gas, uranium, renewables. Watch out for the rare earth companies, the critical metal companies this year, a decent population coming in. It's quite widespread, and with all the press that's been surrounding lithium, graphite, vanadium, cobalt in the last 8 months, we've seen a bit of an increase in that space, although it is significantly smaller compared to precious metals, for example, but it's quite the spread.
Okay, now on the flip side, what are attendees getting excited about? What commodities are they interested in?
Well, with the way 2016 opened in the markets, gold got a bit of love, which is great. So we've had a decent number of inquiries about which gold companies are going to be there. We have gotten a significant amount of inquiries about uranium. And then again, with the publicity surrounding lithium, graphite, cobalt, these guys, lots of inquiries. But to be honest, this time of year, people are calling, emailing all day, asking about which company specifically they could see there. And it's all over the map. We hear about everything right now.
Okay. Now, in terms of speakers, you have some really good ones lined up. You've got Rick Rule, Doug Casey, Beaty. Who would you recommend that attendees not miss?
The whole agenda is can't miss, Charlotte.
Okay.
So I'll say that in the last couple of years, content at resource investment conferences has been a little bit repetitive. And that's us, and that's our competitors, and that's everybody, and we're at fault. And that feedback comes from our attendees. And granted, there hasn't been a ton of news coming out in the business, but something had to change. And so we've shaken up our agenda. And the names you listed, Beaty, Rick Rule, Doug Casey, they're coming, but they're not giving keynotes. They're getting grilled in one-on-one conversations. And what that does is provide a different perspective and a different experience for the attendees because they're not at a podium dictating a PowerPoint slide. They're getting grilled and by somebody who knows them very well and knows what to ask and what buttons to push. And what happens is that you get a much more intimate level of conversation. They share personal experiences and give heartfelt advice because they're reflecting on their personal journey. And so from the attendance standpoint, it's a completely unique experience. You get to know the individual, and the content is fantastic. So you'll rarely see a keynote on our stage. And I don't want to pick out any one speaker and mention that we've got a lot, and I don't want to leave anybody out. But if I'm going to mention a couple, I'll pick two that don't usually come to Vancouver with us. And that's why I think you should check them out. And that would be Frank Curzio. And he produces the #1 viewed or listened to business podcast on iTunes, Frank Curzio on the website. Check him out. And then Jeff Christian from CPM Group, only because Jeff comes to our American shows. He's a huge draw for us down there, but he never comes to Vancouver with us. He's coming this January. So Jeff Christian on the website, I'd check him out as well. But the whole agenda is fantastic.
Okay, that sounds like it'll be a nice change.
I think so.
Yeah. Are there any other details about the conference you'd like to highlight?
You know what? It's the agenda, and I know I'm beating that again, but to be honest, we applied this strategy to a show that we did in San Francisco in November. And it was hands down the best content we've ever had. And that feedback comes from our attendees that were there, the exhibitors that watched, and the speakers that couldn't pull themselves out of the speaker hall when they were off the podium. So I'm more excited about this agenda than I've ever been. This will be the best Cambridge House conference you've ever been to, for sure. And you know what? At the end of each day, we do this fun thing. So we'll have everybody who spoke in the speaker hall that day, and anybody who was in a workshop and said something that was striking. We pull them all back for an end-of-day roundup. And they're on stage, could be 15 people, and Marion Katusa moderates this, and he hits them with rapid-fire questions. But what happens is organic conversation starts spouting from the people on the stage, and you get little debates beginning or expanding on topics, and it's very unique to see all the stars at once going at it or agreeing, but it's tons of fun. End of day each day, don't miss that for sure.
Okay. Now, in closing, you have the Cantech conference coming up in Toronto, just directly preceding or coming after this one.
Right after, yeah.
Can you talk a little about that and why investors should consider going to that too?
Absolutely, and they should consider going. It'll be tough this year if you're from Vancouver because we stacked the shows. We're January 24th, 25th in Vancouver, January 26th in Toronto. So our team is catching red-eye flights to go set that show up, but it's a great show. And when I talked about being patient and Cambridge House picking the best partners in the business, that's what we did with Cantech. We had wanted to jump into the tech space for a while, but it wasn't until we met Nick Waddell, who runs the cantechletter.com, that we knew the time's right, the partner's right, let's do this. And 3 years later, it's now the biggest technology investment conference in the country. It's one day, it's very busy, it's tons of fun. If you can't make it this year, mark your calendars for next year. It's a blast, yeah.
Okay, all right, well that all sounds very exciting.
Great.
Okay, great, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network. VRIC is going to be in Vancouver from January 24th to 25th, and the Cantech conference will be in Toronto on January 26th.